Buddhang saranang gacchami. Dhammang saranang gacchami. Sanghang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi Buddhang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi Dhammang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi Sanghang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi Buddhang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi Dhammang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi Sanghang saranang gacchami. Panatipata veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Adinadana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Kamisu miccācara veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Musavada veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Surameraya Majapamadatthana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. So, this morning's talk is called Heaven is Not for Buddhists. Now, a lot of people will say that the Buddha speaks about heaven quite a lot. And this is true. We do hear the heavenly realms mentioned in the suttas many, many times. And so it might seem a bit of a strange statement to make that heaven is not for Buddhists. Heaven, as most people understand it, if we look at the Abrahamic traditions, so we're looking at Christianity, we're looking at Islam, we're looking at Judaism, and also Hinduism actually. See, all four of these religions have heaven as an ultimate goal. And I'm not quite sure about Hinduism, but I know that the others have hell as the other possible destination. So, in Christianity, for instance, they say, you believe in Jesus and you live a good life and you go to heaven and you stay there forever and ever and ever for all eternity, worshipping their God. Of course, if you don't believe in Jesus, they say that you go to hell forever and ever and ever. And apparently it is the compassion of God that sends non-believers to hell. God sentences you to an eternity of suffering if you don't believe in Him. And apparently, while you're there, you'll actually remember how nice God actually was. Not quite sure I can see the logic in that, but that's how it works. We know here, people being brought up in Malaysia their entire lives, and so Islam too has a notion of heaven. I guess you go to the mosque and you do your prayers and try to live according to the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad, according to the teachings of the Quran, and you will get a place in heaven according to the Quran. Judaism is the same. Hinduism is slightly different because they have reincarnation, and so they could go through many lifetimes, but they have an eternal soul in Hinduism. The soul doesn't change, only the body changes according to Hinduism. And so you have this eternal soul that transmigrates from one lifetime to another to another. Apparently you can go down as well as going up, so they assure me. But the ultimate aim for the Hindu is to become one with, I think it's Brahma. So they're looking for an ultimate rebirth in what Brahma believes to be an eternal in heaven. And so we can see how the concept of heaven works. And it sounds like a pleasant place to hang out, to be perfectly honest. No suffering. According to the Christian Bible, there's no more suffering in heaven. People who have missing limbs, when they go to heaven, will have all their limbs in place. So it sounds quite nice. But in Buddhism, we don't see heaven as anything permanent. We see heaven as an impermanent place. But unfortunately today, there are monks who teach the lay people, be good, give Dhamma, and go to heaven. Well, that's a false teaching. That is false Dhamma. That is a corruption of the teaching of the Lord Buddha. Now, people have said to me, but the Buddha actually does speak of this type of rebirth. And this is true. But what we have to remember is the Buddha was the Buddha. And when the Buddha gave any of his talks, Buddha knew the mind of his audience. I'm not an arahant, so I don't know the mind of the audience that I'm speaking to. But what I won't do is assume that you're all stupid. And I honestly believe that any monks that teach, be good, give Dhamma, and go to heaven, are teaching their audience as if though they believe the audience to be stupid, to be unable to understand the teachings of the Buddha. And when Buddha did teach for certain people, he knew that because of their past karma, that the most they might be able to hope for at this stage would be the heavenly rebirth. Also, sometimes when the Buddha taught these things, he would start somebody out on the path, and it didn't mean they would get a heavenly rebirth. They could go further than that. But he could encourage them to change their life. And like before I became a Buddhist, as you heard in the introduction, I was involved in gang warfare, violence. I used to say I should buy shares in the local brewery because of the amount of alcohol that I could consume. I was keeping the local breweries in business, keeping them a profit. I spent half my time chasing after the ladies. Didn't matter if they were married or not married. As long as they were ladies, I would go chasing after them. Spent half my life taking drugs. I'm 54 this month. I started taking drugs at the age of 13 and I stopped taking drugs at the age of 40. It's a long time to be messing with your brain cells. But, so if somebody had said to me, if you take this lifestyle, if you just stop doing what you're doing and maybe give some food to the monks on their alms round, you could have a heavenly rebirth. Well, that might appeal to somebody like me. Thankfully, that wasn't what I got taught when I started to turn my life around. It's interesting that for a lot of Westerners especially, the concept of karma and rebirth is a very, very difficult concept to come to grips with. This is often because Westerners have rejected the teachings of the church. They've turned their back on the teachings of the church and become, we like to believe that we're free thinkers in the West. And so things like karma and rebirth can become very, very difficult concepts for a lot of Westerners to understand. We just see it as very closely aligned with the whole idea of Christianity. Karma, be good, go to heaven. Karma, be bad, go to hell. So we often reject these types of things. But the time I met the Dalai Lama, I I'd gone to India, and at this stage I was still doing a few drugs, still drinking, still partying, still having a fun time. Even though I'd wake up in the morning with a really sore head, the sorer the head, the more convinced I was that I'd had lots of fun. The suffering of the head didn't worry me too much. But I was listening to the Dalai Lama talking up in Dharamsala, and this was the first time I'd listened to the Dhamma. And the Dalai Lama was giving like a 10-day, 14-day public talk. And originally I'd only gone because the Dalai Lama was there and I thought he was quite a cool person. I didn't know much about him, but I knew he was quite cool. He was quite famous. I'd seen him on television. But on about the third day, the Dalai Lama started talking about karma and rebirth. And something inside me awakened, if you like. So this thing that many Westerners tend to reject was the thing that actually attracted me to the teachings of the Buddha, was this karma and rebirth idea. And so I started to study the Dhamma, started to do the meditation practice, asked all sorts of questions. You know, us Westerners, we love to ask questions. Why like this? How do you know it's like that? But that's okay, that's Westerners. We do. We ask many questions. And so I started to understand slowly the teachings of the Buddha. Now, as I say, today, all too often, I hear this teaching of these monks that just be good and go to heaven. And as I said, the Buddha does talk about this to a certain degree. He talks about this. But going to heaven is not and should not be the aim of any Buddhist. The Buddha taught Nibbana, enlightenment, liberation, the total unbinding. He didn't teach going to heaven. So, I've been to places and I've spoken to lay people, and they've told me that that's their plan. Be good and go to heaven. Well, there's a problem with this theory, because what they tell me, they say, I'm going to go to heaven, and while I'm there, I'm going to hang out. I'm just going to wait. I'm going to wait for the next Buddha to appear. The next Buddha will teach me the Dhamma, and I will become enlightened. Yeah, right. Problems with this theory. First and foremost, just because we're good, just because, you know, so many people here, they come to the temple in the mornings and they give the monks their breakfast. And the monks appreciate it. It's a really nice breakfast. I look forward to my breakfast, I must admit. And it is a good thing to come to the temple. It's a good thing to help support the monastic community. I'm saying nothing and for the lay people, you wouldn't have monks, because we'd all have to go out and get jobs so that we could feed ourselves. You pay for our accommodation, our lighting, our robes. So it's a good thing that the lay people come and give as generously as what they do. So there's nothing against giving these dhamma. But just because we live a good life is no guarantee of a heavenly rebirth. Because you see, there is karma that can come up that will give us a lousy rebirth. No, karma has to ripen. And no matter how good a person is, if there's karma that's due to ripen, that will take them to a lower realm, that karma will ripen. And so the idea of the heavenly rebirth has just gone out the window. You're going to have to take a low rebirth or two before you get another opportunity. So this is something we do have to understand about karma. You know, it's the same, the Buddha said that a person can be extremely bad in this life and take a good rebirth in the next life, because there can be karma that also needs to ripen. Of course, all the bad things they've done in this life, they've stored up a little bit more karma. It'll catch up to them sometime in the future. So we can see karma can interfere with things. Now, another problem with the theory of going to heaven and waiting for the Buddha is the length of time between Buddhas. Now, Siddhartha Gautama, Shakyamuni Buddha, if you read the suttas, we read about the night of his enlightenment as he was going through the various stages. And at one stage he talks about seeing all of his past lives. Now, he talks about kalpas and kalpas and aeons and aeons and Shiva. So many. And he speaks in the suttas, he speaks of meeting with 6 other Buddhas. The 28 Buddhas isn't found in the suttas, by the way. The Buddha speaks about meeting with 6 other Buddhas over such a vast period of time. 6 Buddhas arose. So let's say we get this heavenly rebirth. By the time the next Buddha actually arises, you might not be in heaven anymore. The karma that got you there could well have expired, been all used up. And you might find yourself going into a hell realm. Now, if you're in a hell realm and the next Buddha turns up, you've not got much chance of hearing anything that he's got to say. So we can see that this whole idea of a heavenly rebirth is not an idea that Buddhists, good practicing Buddhists, should have in their mind. So the ultimate goal of Buddhism is Nibbana. Which is something This was said by the Blessed One, said by the Arahant, so I have heard. When a Deva is about to pass away from the company of Devas, 5 omens appear. His garlands wither, his clothes get soiled, sweat comes out of his armpits, a dullness descends on his body. He no longer delights in his own Deva-Sept. So we can see that the Devas, normally they've got these garlands, flowers, stuff like that. And they always stay nice, they always stay fresh, doesn't smell anything. His clothes get soiled. So for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, maybe thousands of years, the Devas never had to do any washing. Never had to do the laundry, the clothes have always been clean. But now they start to become soiled. Starts to sweat from the armpits. The dullness. So you can imagine Devas having, like really bright coloured skin. But now it starts to fade out. And he no longer delights in his own Deva-Sept. It starts to get uncomfortable in his seat. After so long of thinking, and you think after such a long period of time, these Devas think that this is quite permanent, this heaven. But it's not. Now a lot of in some of the Deva realms, it says whatever a Deva desires, a Deva has. Just think, your favourite food, all you got to do is think about it, and it's there for you. Nice. So the Devas have delighted in this thing for so long, and now things start to change. So it goes on, the Devas knowing from us that this Deva son is about to pass away. Encourage him with 3 sayings. Go from here, honourable sir, to a good destination. So now they're hoping that the Deva is not going to fall into a lower realm, hungry ghost, animal realm, hell realm, anything like that. Go to a good destination. Having gone to a good destination, gain the gain that is good to gain. And having gained the gain that is good to gain, become well established. And when this was said, a certain monk said to the Blessed One, what causes the Deva's reckoning of going to a good destination? What is their reckoning of the gain that is good to gain? And what is their reckoning of becoming well established? The human state is the Deva's reckoning of going to a good destination. So the humans want to go to a heavenly realm, and the Devas are saying a good destination is the human realm. Goes on, having become a human being, acquiring conviction in the Dhamma and Vinaya taught by the Tathagata. This is the Deva's reckoning of the gain that is good to gain. So are we born human? And now we need to start to listen to and to understand the Dhamma Vinaya as taught by the Tathagata. When the conviction is settled in one, rooted, established and strong. Now these are very important words to remember. Rooted, established and strong. You know, when you plant a tree, you've got to get the roots into the ground. You can't put the roots up too high because the plant will die. The sun will hit it, it will just die. You have to get the roots firmly established in the soil. They got to be strong. not to be destroyed by any Brahmin or contemplator, Deva, Mara or Brahma, or anywhere else in the world. So we're so strong in our conviction in the Dhamma and the teaching of the Tathagata, of the Blessed One, that nobody can take away our conviction. This is what it means to be rooted and established in conviction. So this is the Deva's reckoning of becoming well established. When a Deva passes away from the company of Devas through his lifespan's endings, 3 sounds sound forth, the Deva's encouragement: go from here, honourable servant, to the good destination, to companionship with human beings. On becoming a human being, acquire a conviction unsurpassed in true Dhamma. Now this is very important, true Dhamma. And as I said, when monks teach things like, be good, go to heaven, this is not true Dhamma. This is Dhamma light. We don't need Dhamma light. We need the true Dhamma. How do we get the true Dhamma? You go back to the suttas. So, you sit, you listen to the monk talking. That might sound good. But you go back to the suttas and see, did the monk or whoever it is, it could be a lay person, are they teaching what it says in the suttas? Or are they teaching what seems good to them? And some monks will teach to get big crowds, lots of donations, lots of red envelopes. So they'll tell the people what the people want to hear. But it's not about telling the people what to hear, it's about telling the people what needs to be said, so that they can become established in the Dhamma. That conviction of yours in true Dhamma, well taught, should be settled, rooted, established, undestroyed as long as you live. Having abandoned bodily misconduct, verbal misconduct, mental misconduct, and whatever else is flawed. Having done with the body what is skillful, and much that is skillful with speech, having done what's skillful with a heart without limit, with no acquisitions, then having made much of the basis of merit through giving, establish other mortals in true Dhamma and the holy life. With this sympathy, the Devas, when they know a Deva is passing away, encourage him, come back Deva, again and again. And so we see here, we're talking about bodily misconduct, verbal misconduct, mental misconduct. We have to start cutting away at these and replacing them with good bodily conduct, good verbal conduct, good thought conduct. And so we start to change the way we've been living. And so giving up the drugs and the party life. And we start to do what's skillful. One thing that I didn't know about, when you drink a lot of alcohol, your speech can become very, very hurtful, very hateful. A lot of nasty things are said when you're intoxicated. Another problem with intoxication is intoxication actually, it can cause us to break the first 4 precepts. We do a lot of silly things when we're drunk or when we're stoned. Our prisons are full of people that probably wouldn't be there, but they've gotten drunk or they've gotten stoned, got into a fight, ended up in prison, accidentally killed somebody, however it's worked. So we have to change our conduct. So we see that these heavenly abodes, you can partake of untold sensual desires. So imagine being able to get whatever it is that you want when you want it. That'd be nice. And so the devas enjoy this. But the problem is when the devas are in the heavenly realms, they're not accumulating any more virtuous karma. They're not doing virtuous deeds. They're just enjoying sensual pleasures. And so, for lack of a better way of describing it, they're not banking anything for the future. They're making constant withdrawals from their bank account, and they're not putting anything back in again. And we all know, you're all householders, if you don't put money in your bank, eventually the account will run out. You keep taking money out, you keep taking money out, you keep taking money out. You don't put your card in the wall one day, no money in the account. You have to put money in all the time. And this is how virtuous karma. When we're doing virtuous karma, you could say we're banking it. We're banking the karma. And I said earlier on how we can have karma waiting in the background that can interfere with a virtuous rebirth. But if we do enough virtuous deeds, virtuous thoughts, virtuous speech, while we're alive now, we can start to bury that non-virtuous karma. And so the effects of it get lessened. It's the story of the salt in the water. If you have some water here with a little bit of salt, you can't taste the salt maybe. The more salt you add, the saltier the water, you can taste less of the fresh water and more of the salt. And this is how karma works. Once we stop doing non-virtuous karma, and we start doing virtuous karma, then it can affect the results of that non-virtuous karma that has yet to arrive. So we need to be sure that we're trying to live as holy a life as we possibly can. Now I know that's not always easy. Lay society, I guess it's easier for a monk than it is for a lay person. I don't get caught in traffic jams every morning going to work. So there's some thought patterns or some speech patterns that aren't going to come to mind too quickly. I think if I was caught in some of your Kuala Lumpur traffic jams every morning, there might be some wrong speech come out of my mouth from time to time. And some of my hand signals might not be particularly virtuous either. But we try our best. We try not to get involved in road rage. We just accept we're in a traffic jam and yes, that idiot did just pull in front of me, but I'm not going to stick two fingers up at him and tell him what I think. We try our best. So when we're in this heavenly realm, we're not creating any more virtuous karma. So there's actually no guarantee that once your time is up, you may not even be born into a human realm. You could be born as a hungry ghost. You could be born as an animal, or you could be born in a hell. And the Pansu Sutta, the Samyutta Nikaya, says that the Blessed One, picking up a little bit of dust with the tip of his fingernail, said to the monks, "What is more, monks, the little bit of dust on my fingernail or the great earth? The great earth is far greater, Lord, The little bit of dust the Blessed One has picked up with the tip of his fingernail is next to nothing. It doesn't even count. It is of no comparison. It's not even a fraction, this little bit of dust the Blessed One has picked up with the tip of his fingernail when compared to the great earth. In the same way, monks, few are the beings who, on passing from the Deva realms, are born amongst devas. Far more are the beings who, on passing away from the Deva realms, are reborn in hell, in the animal womb, in the domain of the hungry ghosts. So we can see this argument of going to heaven and waiting for the Buddha. It's not a particularly good argument for any of us to try and live by. In the Kuala-Sutta, you all know the Kuala-Sutta, it's the one about the blind turtle. Monks, suppose this great earth were totally covered with water, and a man were to toss a yoke with a single hole in. A wind from the east would push it west. A wind from the west would push it east. A wind from the north would push it south. A wind from the south would push it north. And suppose a blind sea turtle were there, and it would come to the surface once every 100 years. Now what do you think? Would that blind sea turtle coming to the surface once every 100 years stick his neck into the yoke with a single hole? It would be a sheer coincidence, Lord, that the blind sea turtle coming to the surface once every 100 years would stick his neck into the yoke with a single hole. It is likewise a sheer coincidence that one obtains a human state. It's likewise a sheer coincidence that a Tathagata, worthy and rightly self-awakened, arises in the world. It's likewise a sheer coincidence that a doctrine and discipline, the Dhamma, expounded by the Tathagata, appears in the world. Now this human state has been attained. A Tathagata, worthy and rightly self-awakened, has arisen in the world. A doctrine and discipline expounded by a Tathagata appears in the world. Therefore your duty is this contemplation. This is stress. This is the origination of stress. This is the cessation of stress. Your duty is this contemplation. This is the path of practice leading to the cessation of stress. So now here we have the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Noble Path. This is what we need to be contemplating, not going to heaven. So we see from that summary too, it's not easy to get a human rebirth. Not only do we have a human rebirth at the moment, but we still have the teachings of the Buddha. 2,600 years ago, those teachings were lost. And it wasn't until the Bodhisattva came down from Dusita and was born as a man in what is now called Nepal, came and rediscovered the Dhamma. He didn't invent the Dhamma, he rediscovered the Dhamma. The Dhamma had been lost. People didn't know the truth. And yet here we are today. Human beings, born at a time where you can practice the Dhamma. You know, it's not just being born a human being. There's lots of human beings on this planet. Yet now for 6 or 7 billion. There's actually not that many Buddhists in the scheme of things. You know? And as I say, not everybody has these opportunities. When I was in India, and I went a few times, because once I heard the teachings from the Dalai Lama, I continued to go back to India. My roots in Buddhism are Tibetan Buddhism, and so I knew that sort of every February the Dalai Lama would be in India because it's the Tibetan New Year, the Losar. So every New Year he goes back to Dharamsala and he does these public teachings. And so once I became interested in Buddhism, I used to go back to listen to these teachings. And the beggars knew that the Dalai Lama was also in Dharamsala. Now they have a thing in India, if you're beggars can ride free on the trains, for instance. They look after people in India. There's a way of looking after them. I remember I spotted one beggar, and I was seeing him in pushcar. Pushcar's hundreds of kilometres away. And I said, "How did you get here?" He said, "Train and bus." And he told me it was free. I said, "What are you doing here?" He said, "The Dalai Lama is in town." He said, "I can make lots of money." And the temple where the Dalai Lama resides is down a fairly steep hill. So everybody's walking down the hill. Every morning and every afternoon they're walking back up the hill again. The beggars line the streets with a cup or a bowl or something like this, looking for a few rupees or maybe something to eat, They sit right outside the temple with their bowls out. They don't go inside the temple. They don't go and listen to the teachings. I've seen the same in Thailand. You have these people, because anybody who's been to Thailand knows that there's a temple, wherever you go there's a temple. It's very hard not to find a temple in Thailand. And you see people set up outside the temples selling food, selling amulets, selling all sorts of knickknacks. And so often they don't go in to listen to the teaching of the Dhamma. What a waste of a life. There they are, you guys are in a Muslim country, and you're coming into a temple to listen to the Dhamma. These people are born in Buddhist countries, and they're not coming into the temple to listen to the Dhamma. They're trying to make money for the people that are going in and out of the temple. It's such a waste that that's all they can think about is making money. And so we can see that even being born a human being is not enough. There's a practice that we need to do. You could be born in some countries, and I'm not sure, I've never been to Saudi Arabia, but I don't think there's many Buddhist temples in Saudi Arabia. Myself, I was born in New Zealand. There's no law in New Zealand. If I had been a Christian, there would be no law to prohibit me from converting to any other religion. Some religions don't allow conversion. So we've been very lucky in this lifetime. So we see it's very, very difficult to get a human rebirth. Extremely rare to get a human rebirth. So we're born at a time that there are still the teachings of the Buddha that we can listen to, that we can practice. And so we need to practice this in order to end the cycle of samsara. So the goal of the Buddhist is Dhamma. Now, I know a lot of people say that that's quite a lofty, quite a lofty thing to aspire to, to become an arahant. And it may be true. I mean, it's probably hard enough for your average monk to become an arahant these days. Never mind being a lay person who has to go out and support a family, pay the mortgage, pay the rent, all these sorts of things. Very, very difficult path. But what about stream entry? Sotapanna. In the Dhammapada, verse 178, says here, far better than sovereignty over the earth, or far better than going to the abodes of the devas, or far better than ruling supreme over the entire universe, is the attainment of Sotapatti fruition, the first level of stream entry. Isn't that greater than being supreme lord of the entire universe, is to become a stream enterer, Sotapatti. So we can see, rather than focusing on rebirth in the heavenly realm, we should be focusing on the practice that leads to stream entry. With the attainment of stream entry, we are guaranteed no more than 7 rebirths. And none of these rebirths will take place in any of the lower realms. And this, by the way, is a maximum of 7 rebirths. It's quite possible you could come back in your next life and become an arahant. You might come back in your next life and have a really good teacher and a really good practice and attack Nibbana. So there's a maximum of 7 rebirths as a Sotapanna. So this is possibly something we could aim for. So how does one become a stream enterer? A stream enterer, Sotapanna, has broken the 3 lower fetters. So these are Sakyaditi. These are views of a self-identity. We give up the concept of the self. Vicikicca is doubt. We start to give up doubt. And Siddhipada, which is the belief in rites and rituals, or grasping at habits and practices. So we understand that this thing that we view as self doesn't exist. Of course, on a conventional level it exists. I am here talking to you. That's conventionally true. But the ultimate reality is there is no I. And when we give away this view of self-identity, we actually find that we start to give up things like anger, greed, and delusion. Because it's the self-identity that gives us the ego. I want this, I don't like that. And when we start this I want and I don't want, then greed and anger start to arise in us. So it's when we get rid of this self-identity view that we start putting aside our anger. And again, that's not something that's going to come overnight. It took me a long time to stop wanting to punch people's lights out. Even after I started practicing the Dhamma, I was one of these people, I never ever liked stupid people. And eventually if stupid people wouldn't leave me alone, I would hit them. And even after becoming a Buddhist, I still found myself surrounded by stupid people quite often. And I still quite often wanted to thump them one. It takes practice. We're not going to get there overnight, as I say. But we practice it slowly but surely. The Buddha talks about being ardent. We're ardent, we're constantly striving to become better people. But we do make mistakes, because we're human beings. We're just ordinary human beings who are on the path. The more we practice, the easier it gets. But you see these people, sometimes people come to these meditation courses and they come and do a 10-day meditation course. So day one they want the first jhana, day two they want the second jhana. It doesn't work like that. It takes practice because our minds have been conditioned. It becomes habitual. We have these doubts. Sometimes we question the Dhamma. Sometimes we question the Dhamma because we're looking at the actions of other people. Sometimes we might see monks doing something that we don't think monks should really be doing. And we can actually start to doubt the teachings of the Buddha based upon these things. But that's because we're looking outwards. We need to be looking inwards. We need to be examining ourselves. This is how we start to get rid of these doubts. We start to see what causes the doubts to arise. And then we can start to say, well, okay, that's not my problem. If I just saw that monk going down the road and 6 o'clock at night buying something to eat at KFC, that's okay, that's the monk's problem. Don't start to doubt the Dhamma because of the practice of other people. It's an individual practice. It's up to, we're all here, we're all born of our own karma. It's our karma that we need to be taking care of. You might say to one, you should be supposed to be a bit of pain, like you've got chicken at 6 o'clock at night. But don't let yourself get stressed out by it. It goes down, it will start to arise. I mean, believe in rites and rituals. It's, I know some of you probably heard me say this before. See, this morning we came in here and we took 5 precepts. Now, there's nothing wrong with taking 5 precepts. It's fine. 5 precepts is a reminder of how we should be precepts. But when we take the 5 precepts, the precepts must mean something. Otherwise they're just empty words. And I have witnessed personally people coming into temples, not this one, just in case, I've not seen it here. And, you know, we're doing the 5 precepts, so we've got our hands on Angela, everyone puts their hands up on Angela, but I've seen on the 5th precept people dropping some fingers down like this. But their fingers are down. Now I said, what is that? Well, see, in the West, when we make a promise that we don't intend on keeping, we cross our fingers. And apparently the dropping of the fingers is exactly the same thing. So these people are saying the precepts with no intention of keeping the precept. Yeah, you got it. There's no intention of keeping the precept. So when this happens, the precepts have become some sort of ritual. There's no meaning behind the actual precept at all, you know. It's just something that it becomes religious. And we're not supposed to be religious people, we're supposed to be spiritual people. And there's a big difference between religion and spirituality. You know? And so we have to be very careful of rites and rituals. When I first became a monk, I just, people were like, what are you doing? Now, I actually went a little bit overboard on not liking rites and rituals. I came to understand that a lot of it's devotional, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with being devotional. I had gone sort of over the top. I wasn't really taking the middle path when it came to that sort of thing. But I have seen where it's just become ritualistic and it means nothing. And you see this in many, many religions. You know, people go and they just do things because that's the way it's always been done. But it has very, very little meaning in their lives. So we have to get rid of these rites and rituals. As I've often said to people, you don't actually need to come to a temple and come before a monk and take 5 precepts. You don't have to take 5 precepts at all. Absolutely unnecessary. What you have to do is you have to live accordingly. So when we stop killing, when we stop stealing, when we stop having sexual immorality, we stop using harsh and derisive speech, all these sorts of things, we're living by the 5 precepts. We don't have to take them. We give them up. You know, remember the story of the raft. The raft is used to cross over. So when we start out in Buddhism, we start, every day we might be taking the 5 precepts. But actually we don't need to. Because eventually we start living the 5 precepts. So there's no need to actually take them. Again, it still wouldn't matter the fact that you take it becomes devotional, but it has to mean something, otherwise it is just a ritual. So, 4 factors that lead to stream entry. Associating with people of integrity. Now, again, that's not always easy. Not everybody we work with has integrity. But that's okay, because what we do is we keep our association with those people to a minimum, and we try and spend as much time as we can with people of integrity. Listening to the true Dhamma. Mentioned this already. We can check the suttas to see whether or not it's true Dhamma that we're listening to. Giving proper attention to the Dhamma. This means we're not on Facebook while the monk's giving us talk. Not checking our messages on Twitter. But giving proper attention. And then we practice according to the Dhamma. And that's important, according to the Dhamma, because some people practice it's not very much according to the Dhamma, because the Dhamma has been twisted and pulled to bits and all sorts of things, you know. But we do our best to practice according to, and practicing according to the Dhamma, once again, we are trying to live by the 5 precepts. This is practicing according to the Dhamma. So we try and practice this way, remembering the 4 noble truths. So in the Samyutta Nikaya 45.2, the Upada Sutta, I've heard that on one occasion the Blessed One was living among the Sakyans. Now there was a Sakyan town named Sakkara. There Venerable Ananda went to the Blessed One, and on arrival, having bowed down to the Blessed One, sat to one side. As he was sitting there, Venerable Ananda said to the Blessed One, "This is half of the holy life, Lord. Admirable friendship, admirable companionship, admirable camaraderie." Don't say that, Ananda. Don't say that. Admirable friendship, admirable companionship, admirable camaraderie is actually the whole of the holy life. When a monk has admirable friends, companions and comrades, he can be expected to develop and pursue the Noble Eightfold Path. So we can see the importance of having friends of integrity. This is why, somebody asked me one day, is it necessary to go to a temple to be a Buddhist? I said, no, it's not. Actually, I've often said going to a temple no more makes you a Buddhist than going to McDonald's makes you a Big Mac. No, you don't need to come to the temple to be a Buddhist. But when you come to the temple, you get to associate with your Dhamma brothers and sisters. Something that we might not get during the week. We don't always get the opportunity to be with our Dharma brothers and sisters, where we can discuss the Dharma. Maybe we discuss the problems we had during the week. And one of our brothers or sisters will give us some Dharma to help us with our problems. So, the temple is a nice place to come to. We don't have to, but it's there. It's where we will find our friends of integrity many times. So we can be thankful that 120 years ago, a bunch of Sri Lankans decided they wanted to get some land and to build a Buddhist temple here in Kuala Lumpur, because it is a nice meeting place for people. So we can see that it's very, very important that we have. I won't read all the Upada Sutta because I'll read a little bit more. And how does a monk who has admirable people as friends, companions and comrades develop and pursue the Noble Eightfold Path? He develops a right view dependent on seclusion, dependent on dispassion, dependent on cessation, resulting in relinquishment. He develops right resolve, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration, dependent on seclusion, dependent on dispassion, dependent on cessation, resulting in relinquishment. And so we can see that, when we start to associate with good friends, they'll actually help us, because that was all part of the Noble Eightfold Path. So they can help to keep us on the right track. When I was growing up, I had lots of friends. Really friends of integrity. I had a friend, he was the biggest thieving bloke you could ever hope not to meet. If it wasn't nailed down, he would steal it. And yet I used to say to people, he was such a good mate, because sometimes I'd get really, really drunk. And I'd have my wallet out and I'd put it on the table and I'd walk off. I'd forget my wallet, it was sitting on the table. Next morning, you're searching all over the place, like, where's my wallet, my money, my credit cards, driver's license, everything's gone. And then my friend would phone me up and say, you left your wallet at such and such, I have it at my house. So I used to think he was a friend of integrity, but he really wasn't, because if I got arrested by the police, it was always the fault of the police. It was never my fault. A friend of integrity would have said to me, well, if you hadn't stolen that car, then maybe you wouldn't have been arrested. Whereas my friends were going, oh, the police, they're always picking on you, man, what's wrong? Not really friends of integrity. A friend of integrity will tell you when you're slipping up. They'll speak the truth to you. They speak it lovingly, don't they? They'll tell you nicely. But when they correct you because they actually care about you. So this is the reason why we need to have friends of integrity. They'll keep us on the path. In the Anguttara Nikaya 854, it points out that associating with good people also means to learn from them and to emulate their behaviour. So when we start to associate with good people, we do tend to change our behaviour according to the people who we associate with. So when we're associating with good people, our behaviour will naturally begin to change. So this is a good thing about having good friends. Listening to the true Dhamma, this is called Sadhamma, has 5 rewards. A person hears what they have not heard before. He clarifies what he has heard before. He gets rid of doubt. He straightens his views. And his mind is tranquil, and he will give appropriate attention when listening to the Dhamma, which is Yoniso Manasikara. So, as you can see, there is a little bit of work involved in streaming, but it's well worth it. It is a guarantee of no more than 7 years. And it is something that is attainable here and now. So we can see from the teachings of the Buddha that heaven is not for Buddhists. Any questions or any comments? Can you speak into that microphone?
The concept of heaven and earth, heaven and hell, as in Christianity and Islam. In what way do we differ with this concept of the heavenly man and the heaven differ from the concept of the Christianity heaven and earth? Because we do have in our Sutta talks about the heavenly realm and
true. In Buddhism, we do have heavenly realms and we do have hell realms. Actually, we've got more heavens and more hells than they have in Christianity. We got lots of them. But they're not permanent. This is where we differentiate, you see. You can go to hell like, killing your mother, killing your father, killing an arrow, drawing blood from a Buddha. There's so many reasons we can wind up in the hell realms. But once the karma that put us there has extinguished itself, then we come out of the hell realms. Albeit it might be slowly, but we don't stay there permanently. We're not stuck in hell. And it's the same with heaven. The heavens are also not places of permanent abode. They may seem like places of permanent abode because they're there for so long. We know the story of Brahma. The first one to reach the Dhamma realm. And he was there for I don't know how long, and he started to was a bit lonely, and man, I wish I had some friends, just a few more fellows like him. And other beings started to appear in the Brahma. So, Brahma, he figured that he was the creator God. And he was telling Buddha this, and Buddha kind of put him straight, no, you're not. So they came from other realms into the realms that was their time, and also we would pass on from these realms to other realms. And it's not until we attain enlightenment that we stop going around and around in this cycle of samsara. Somebody else?
Thank you for your intervention today. This is the talk. Actually, I have two questions. One question is, why shall we have to share our gratitude with us? What do we get from us? The second thing is, the 31 places, are they permanent? So that we can move from one place to another place. Thank you.
Actually, the 31 realms of existence, I'll start with that one first. That's actually found in the Abhidhamma. It's not found in the suttas. There are, obviously, in the suttas it does speak of a few different heavenly realms, but it doesn't speak of 31 realms of existence. The Abhidhamma is kind of really stretch things out somewhat. But yes, you can move up and down. You could take, you could take rebirth in a heavenly realm, a lower heavenly realm, and then maybe some other karma kicks in to push you up to another realm. And then another piece of karma kicks up to push you down into a lower realm somewhere. So yes, we can go up and down. It's not until such time as we become extreme emperors that this time. So what was your question? Sorry. So those drugs when I did with the young fellow, my memory's not that good.
Sorry. Okay. My question about the graph is, these 31 clinics, are they permanent?
No, they are not.
Maybe they're not 31, maybe 28, 27.
Well, as I say, I'm not even sure if there's 31 planes. This is from the Abhidhamma, it's not from the suttas. Are they permanent? No, because world systems, see, this universe will expand and contract, and so the realms that are associated with it will do the same thing. They won't last. Even the realms themselves are not permanent realms. They too will collapse as this world system collapses, so will the realms collapse. But then beings who are in these realms will go. See, the sutras talk about many Buddha worlds, not just one Buddha world. It talks about many. And so, if this world system were to collapse, then beings that are here would find themselves reborn in other realms elsewhere. Continue on until such time as you attain nirvana.
My first question is, we ask to share marriage with the divas. What do they get up from us? Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good question. What do the divas get out of it? Okay, first and foremost, when we transfer merit or share merit, the beings have to be able to hear us. If they're not in a place where they can hear us, then of course they can't receive it. They also must want to receive it. We can't force anything. But in actual fact, we can't transfer merit to anybody. It's not possible. You see, the suttas tell us that I am heir of my karma, born of my karma, owner of my karma. Now somebody said to me a while ago, well, of course you can give it away, you own it. So then I asked this question, can I give away my non-virtuous karma? No. And nor can I give away my virtuous karma. And this is merit. Merit is karma, okay? You do a meritorious deed, you attain virtuous karma. You do a non-meritorious deed, you attain non-virtuous karma. But we call this merit. And we can't give karma away. But there is value in the aspiration of transferring or sharing of merit. Okay? When a being hears your aspiration to share merit, they have good thoughts. When you're having good thoughts, you can't be having bad thoughts. Good thoughts create virtuous karma, so they create their own karma by having the good thoughts from listening to you. Now, let's say I take a diva for instance. A diva hears you wanting to share your merit. So then a diva would, be hoping that you would be protected, you would be guarded, so that you could continue to do this work that you were doing. So you are now able to create more virtuous karma for yourself. And the other thing with the transference or the sharing of merit is you actually receive more merit by the very aspiration of wishing to give away your virtuous merit. It's a meritorious thought. That meritorious thought actually gives you more virtuous merit. So it's a win-win situation. As I say, my honest opinion, you cannot give away merit. Because, as I say, if you could, we'd all be giving away non-virtuous merit. We take off down the pub and we're on 5 precinct, we go down the pub, we have a few beers. So, any unvirtuous merit accumulated through this act, I would like to share it with such and such. We can't do that. We can't give away this merit. So I don't believe we can actually give away virtuous merit, but at the same time, as I say, as an aspirational thing, I think it's absolutely brilliant. It's good training, it's training in generosity, and that's something that's really important in the practice of Buddhism, is generosity. And so the mere idea of giving away your merit is a good thing. And as I say, there can be benefits, even though they don't actually receive that merit, they start to have happy, because this is why, when we share merits, or when we transfer merits to our departed ones, you see, if our departed ones are in one of the ghost realms, if they're in a ghost realm, that's not a very nice state of existence to be in, and they're there because it's been difficult to give up. They have this attachment And so, but they're not very happy in this realm. So if they hear you saying, may any virtuous merit accumulated from this deed, may it be transferred to my mother, my father, my grandmother, whoever it is, they hear this and it gives them some happiness. And that happiness, they have good thoughts. That good thoughts helps them to generate virtuous karma, and so you're going to help them with their, not only with the life that they're in, but in the life that they will go to when their lives is close to be completed. Anybody else?
Before we share merits with the Devas and our departed loved ones, I have a few announcements to make. Upcoming talk and events for the following week. Full Moon Puja Monday on 8th of September 2014 at Ashoka Hall at 7:30 p.m. Full Moon Sermon Monday on the 8th of September by Reverend Nana Falling Leaves at Ashoka at 8 p.m. Every Monday, Sudha class by Venerable Dr. M. Kunaji at PH Henry Hall, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Friday, 12th of September 2014, Brother Uku and Yamaje, please help me sleep. 8 precepts program on Saturday, 13th September 2014, conducted by Brother Uku Yamaje, is open for registration at PMD office. 7-day stay in meditation retreat by Brother Uku and Yamaje from Sunday, 14th September to Saturday, 20th of September 2014 is also open for registration at PMD office. Friends of the Vihara FOD Fun Carnivals on Sunday, 21st September 2014. Tickets are available at the PMD office. There will be a 2-day non-stay in meditation retreat by Venerable